Start spreading the news.
And we're here, folks, in the Open Mic program here on the Sports Talk Nation, and welcome aboard, folks. We got a good one for you today, as we are going to talk about the New York Yankees' victory over the Cleveland Indians last night in the American League Division Series. They move on to the ALCS against the Houston Astros. That's going to be fantastic. The NLCS, you're going to have the Dodgers against either Chicago or Washington. We'll see how that pans out, but this is going to be wall-to-wall for your New York fans out there about what happened last night. Joining me to talk about last night's game and moving forward, one of the biggest Yankee fans on the planet, and that, of course, is Karen Vankat. Karen, glad to have you back on.
Glad to be with you, Michael.
Glad to have you back.
Especially today.
Oh my goodness! Especially today. I mean, this is as
today.
This is as good as it gets right now, isn't it?
It's just like, from the beginning with this team, and you know how long I've been preaching for years about bringing kids up. They finally came. They're finally incorporated into the team. It feels like almost 96 in a way. Those early years. They're bringing up all those people, and they're contributing, and they're learning. See, this is the thing with them, because everybody keeps saying they're playing with house money, and then like Michael Kay said, they got Robertson, they got all these people, and so now it's not house money anymore. Well, it still kind of is. You never expected them to. They're ahead of schedule. Let's put it that way, with winning and getting things together, and they're learning how to win. And they're going through a lot of adversity. This hasn't been easy for them at all. Just think about the whole month of September was playoff baseball for them. So, and now we're here.
I mean, I'll say this. A couple of things. I think what the Yankees have done, and we see this in other sports too. We see this in the NHL with what the Devils are doing. They're 3-0. We see this with the Jets. They're 3-2. The idea that rebuilding means you have to basically tank your season and bring up all young kids and lose all these games, and that's how you rebuild. Those days are gone. Rebuilding now means you bring up the young kids, you let them play, and you play to win games. And we've seen that now with 3 teams here in this town. We see this here with the Yankees now, as they are now on the cusp, or now in the ALCS, maybe a cusp of a World Series. It's a new way of building up these teams. And I'll say this: look, I don't know how this series is going to turn out with Houston. And for all we know, Houston, which has a good team, may go out there and take this series, and may do what Sports Illustrated said they would do a couple of years ago and win the World Series. We'll see. But there's something about this Yankee team that has the it factor. There's certain teams that you watch over the course of a long season. I saw a couple of years ago with the Royals, when they won it all, you just kind of had that feeling. We saw it with the Giants when they won those World Series for 3 different years. They just had that kind of it factor. That you just kind of had that feeling that this was a team that could do something. I get that feeling with this team because I haven't seen a team play for its manager the way this team has. I mean, Joe Girardi had his head on the platter. Everyone wanted him fired. Mike Francesa was going crazy. He wanted him fired. The fans wanted him fired. Everybody wanted him fired. And the players went out there and they played for him in a way that I haven't seen many teams do. And there's something about that team, the way they click, the way they play together, the way the veterans and the young guys get along in a certain way. I got a feeling, in fact, I'm going to say it, the Yankees are going to beat Houston in the ALCS. And I think they're going to go to the World Series and going to play the Dodgers in the World Series. And I was a guy who was going on the Cubs-Indians bandwagon since April. That World Series is going to be the Yankees and the Dodgers. That's my final word right there.
Well, as far
You're shocked.
as Houston is concerned,
yeah.
They only really have, they talked about it today. They have Keuchel, who's not the same pitcher that he was when the Yankees faced him the first time last year. Like not saying he's not good, but he's not lights out like he was. Yes, they have Verlander, and Verlander really has shown up, maybe a change of scenery and everything else. But then that's it. McCullers or whatever they said is nursing a bad back, and he hasn't been on. They named Morton. I've never even heard of him. So, I mean, right after their first 2 starters, it's very suspect. Believe it or not, the Yankees starting 4 is better than the Houston starting 4 if you count all 4 guys. Do you know what I mean? Because Severino, he can pitch with anybody. All right, whether it be against Verlander, he's probably going to pitch the second game. So he'd go against Verlander. So, and then you've got, Sabathia, you got Tanaka, and Gray has been suspect. I mean, he does well for a while, and I don't know. It could be just adjusting to a new place in New York, and still, and I think he'll have a better year next year. But still, the Yankee force, and then you got Montgomery. Montgomery's a wild card. If you had to, you could throw him in. Say Gray only could go 2 innings or something. You know what I mean? You got that factor. So it's all going to come down to the pitching again. Both teams have good offenses. I know Judge and Sanchez have been struggling mightily in this series. Judge was struck out 16 times. He looks totally lost. He's trying to pull everything. And even though he's laying off some of the outside pitches, they're calling them strikes on him. There was a bunch that were not strike threes on him. Okay, but they were calling it. Same thing with the legs. I don't understand. The guy wears stirrups. You could see his strikes on him. I'm sick of hearing them say, oh, he's so tall, the umpires can't figure it out. BS. I mean, he's got stirrups on. So he's been getting called by his shins that are strikes. Not to say he's not off, because he's definitely off. But that doesn't help, because I think he does lay off the outside pitch, and they're calling it a strike. And he's like, what do I do? I think he's totally, because of bad umpiring to a degree, is now totally messed up in his head.
Yeah,
totally.
He's a little lost right now. I mean, he had that cold spell in the middle of the season, late July into August. Then he started to heat up in September, and now he's lost again. He's just trying to figure out October. I think the one thing that's been a positive for him is the fact that everyone else has picked it up. I mean, Brett Gardner, we can talk about that at bat that he had last night. He's been hot as a firecracker. Didi Gregorius, of course, hitting the cover off the ball. Greg Bird had that moonshot that I think landed somewhere on the Garden State Parkway somewhere against the that was in Game 3. So everyone else has really picked it up nicely. And another thing about this as well, let's talk about the leadership on this team and Todd Frazier. When the Yankees picked him up, he was the headline along with Robertson. I think Robertson was the really big headline in that trade with the White Sox. But, with Matt Holliday really not contributing at all here in this postseason, team hasn't even played on the postseason roster yet. Frazier's picked up the slack as that veteran guy in the clubhouse and has really been a big impact on this team.
Oh, absolutely. Even though, they say he's batting 200, everything. First of all, his defense. Headley misses a couple. Headley doesn't get to a bunch of those balls that he stabs at. Frazier, the backhand. Because Headley does not ever cover the line. There's been so many doubles on him this year, and he doesn't move. If you watch him from the camera, I don't know if it's the outfield camera, maybe not center field, but there's an outfield camera. Sometimes when a ball's hit and they're behind him, and they show the replay, he doesn't even move off the bat. Like, he's slow. He's not seeing the ball off the bat quickly enough. I played third base, so I know better than anybody. I mean, it is a hot corner. You've got to be on the ball to your feet, and you've got to be right there with it. He is definitely a second or so behind, and that's why he's not getting to half the stuff. That's why Frazier is valuable, even if he doesn't hit. Third base is so critical. I know he made a couple errors in one game, but overall, he's an upgrade at third base over Headley.
He really is, and he really is in so many ways. And let's just talk about this now. That at bat last night in that I think it was the top of the ninth inning with the Yankees up 3-2. And I don't remember how many pitches it was. I think it was 10 or 11 pitches to Gardner. The longer he made that at bat, 12 pitches. The longer he made that at bat go, fouling one pitch off after another, after another, after another, after another. I just got the feeling that at some point he's going to get a hit here. He's too good of a hitter not to get a hit in this situation. He doesn't strike out ever. So you're not going to fool him on a off-speed pitch tailing away at all, especially the way he stands in the batter's box. And then for him to get that big base hit, drive in 2 runs, ball game over at that point.
Oh, absolutely. But let's remember the Frazier at bat.
Yeah.
Before that was 9 pitches. So you had the Frazier at bat at 9, Gardner at 12, and you know what amazed me was the Cody Allen, that he tried the one pitch and it went into the dirt, and Gardner didn't offer. That would be the pitch to get him out if you could throw it. He couldn't throw that pitch. he just kept, there was high fastballs. How many some of them were out of the zone, but you got 2 strikes, there's 2 outs, and Gardner knows what to do. And I said that to somebody last night. I said, I was texting back and forth with a bunch of friends, but one of them I said, are the young guys watching? Are Sanchez and Judge watching this epic at bat? Because that's what they need to do. They have to, in their head, know the situation. And what was I going to say? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. It was just something that just popped up on my computer there. Go ahead.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, those are 2 professional at-bats by 2 professional hitters who have been there a long time. And that is the reason why this team continues to move on, because they have those guys who have been there. I mean, I know Frazier hasn't been to a postseason until this year, but a veteran player. Gardner, of course, has been there before. You have those guys in the locker room who are adding that kind of experience to this team. And at some point, you would have to figure, I know you brought it up just a little while ago, you would like to see Aaron Judge start to figure this thing out. Even Sanchez, to a degree, you like to see him start to figure things out here in the playoffs and get those 2 guys rolling.
Everything.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing with both of them. They're trying to pull, and like I said, Judge is really totally messed up because of, he is actually pitches that are outside. He's right most of the time, and they're calling him on him. That's the problem. But the ones, all of a sudden, one come down the middle. Where are you? He's not being aggressive. He's very tentative at the plate.
Would you, if you were Joe Girardi, would you drop him down the order? Would you move him around? Maybe drop him like to 5th?
I would. I think he did well in the 5th or 6th slot. I think this is how you should play it. I think you should have Gardner leading off, Hicks batting 2nd, Didi batting 3rd right now. I guess you'd have to put Sanchez batting 4th, maybe. But I moved Bird up. Bird's had some good at-bats. He hasn't struck out like the other 2. He's actually he had a couple of home runs in this series. He had a couple of good at-bats plus walks. I may move him into the 6th hole. Into the 5th hole. I may drop Judge to 6, to be honest. And, because remember when he did make the drop finally, he started hitting again.
Yeah.
The pressure was off him. There's so much pressure on him. I think he realized in this series, maybe him and maybe Sanchez too, we don't have to be the ones all the time. That everybody's pulling their weight. And again, let's remember, they're rookies. Not for anything. I mean, I know they made it up here, but this is their first 162-game season. Sanchez came in at the end last year, so did Judge a little bit, but they're rookies. So you got to take that into account, too. I don't want to say it's overwhelming, but how unbelievable is this for them? That last year they were in AAA, brought up for a little bit, and now they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then they're in the thick of it, and everyone's watching. I mean, I think that's part of it. I mean, I know that players say, "Oh, we don't pay attention to the noise. We always shut it out." Well, they have to. I mean, they're human. They have to hear it. I mean, that's why I think the whole thing with Girardi, and we'll get to that a little later. Whole thing with Girardi, I think the players fed off of that. I really think they did. That's what kind of pushed them a little bit to win this series. You could just see the emotion in their body language through the last 3 days. And also, from the standpoint of Judge and Sanchez, I think they know that everyone's paying attention to what these guys are doing. I mean, they're like, yeah, everyone's watching us. We're on ESPN. We're getting interviewed here, there, everywhere. And I think that may have crept into their heads just a little bit here in this playoff series to start things off.
It might have. I don't think Judge is as arrogant. I think Sanchez has a little more arrogance to him, to be perfectly honest, just the way he carries himself. But I think a Judge is like, I got to be the guy. I hit 52 home runs or whatever. I did this. In his head thinking, I'm supposed to be the big bat here. And, he's pressing. Now he's totally messed himself up. But like I told somebody else yesterday, too, where are these? We have 2 batting coaches. Where are they? What are they doing with him? Are they not got video? Are they not sitting him down saying, listen, this is what you need to do, shorten that swing again? Because you know what? He's opened up a lot more, too. Did you notice his stance? That left leg's back even more. Tighten it up a little. Go up the middle again. Where is that? He's not doing that at all. But where are they? Yeah. I mean, you're constantly teaching. I don't care what level. Don't tell me, they're a professional baseball player. These guys screw up enough in the field some of them, not necessarily the Yankees I'm talking about, but just in general, with fundamentals. Oh, they're doing the one-handed bit. Oh, they're a little lazy. They get a little lazy with the fundamentals. They start making errors. Things start to snowball. Same thing in hitting. You have fundamentals in hitting. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to up the middle. Let's get back to not trying to, hit the home run every time. You don't have to. You need to with two. This is going to be the problem. This is what it's been for the Yankees. Left on base, runners in scoring position. All year they've led the league. I can't, you got to think about the situation. Castro, too. He'll be a free swinger once in a while. What's the situation? You got second and third, no outs. Get the guy in. You don't have to be the 3-run homer. You get a base hit, that's 2 runs. Same thing with moving a guy over. Judge, he struck out. He hits it on the ground even to the right side. You get the guy to third base. You got to think the situation. What is it? And what do I do? What can I do? Don't always, there's a time and a place for you. Free swing, 9th inning, nobody on, trying for the home run or whatever. In most situations with men on base, you can't think that way. And you're going to hit it. He gets a pitch, it'll go out of the park.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we even saw that just the opposite. You brought up the struggles of offense. We saw the opposite in the other dugout with the Indians. I mean, no one was hitting. I mean, Jose Ramirez wasn't hitting. Lindor wasn't hitting. Kipnis didn't hit much at all. Bruce, except for the first 2 games, then went into a shell. I mean, these guys just. I mean,
I can never say his name.
Encarnacion had an ugly injury. I mean, look, I mean, good pitching stops good hitting. I understand that the Yankees pitched really well in this series, but their offense, which was second in the league in scoring, I believe, behind Houston, did absolutely nothing, and they didn't hit in situational baseball at all. No,
and nobody was thinking like that. Lindor got that 1 grand slam, all right, but Green wasn't on, and I think he was still gassed from the other game. So otherwise, Lindor did nothing in this series. And what about the errors? They made 9 errors in 5 games for Cleveland. I think they had the best fielding percentage of all American League teams this year. 9 errors, 5 games. They've now they're the new old Cubs, old Red Sox, because now they're losing after they've been ahead. Do you know what I mean? They're up 2-0. They lose this. They were up 3. It wasn't the World Series, not 3-0. Was it 3-1?
It was 3-1. Yeah,
and they lost 3 straight. They lost that. I mean, this is the team that's happening. Even in 97, they beat the Yankees to get to the World Series, and they blew that against the Marlins. So just keep going back to history of this team. I know it's new players, but the history, it gets in your psyche, like the Cubs for 100 years. They haven't won since 48. Do you think now the they're the new, like I said,
the new Cubs,
Chicago or the Red Sox?
Yeah,
they've got the curse.
They got the curse of the Cubs. They got the curse. No, actually, they got the curse of the Cleveland Browns and LeBron James.
They're choking.
They're
literally choking because they're in the lead on all these things and they can't put it away. And Kluber, all right, all season, regular season pitcher, awesome. Comes the playoffs, what's happened?
He stunk it up big time in this series. Oh my God, was he terrible?
David Price, remember?
Yeah.
David Price, great left-hander, has never done well in the playoffs. Now, he did add a relief, a couple of innings here and there and all that kind of BS. But when he was a starter, nothing, 0, stunk.
Yeah.
How many pitchers are like that? They could do the regular season, but when it comes to playoffs and it comes to the October, they implode. And we're seeing that.
Yeah, and you know what? Big mistake by Francona was going back to Bauer on 3 days rest because he got lit up. I mean, he got destroyed. I know he didn't get up and run, but he got absolutely torched in that second inning by the Yankees offense.
He didn't have that same pitch that he had when he was on normal rest.
Yeah, I mean he was terrible.
But why I don't understand this either. Why are managers insisting on the short rest? You see, there's rarely a pitcher. And I think they had statistics on this as far as the playoffs, who've come back on short rest and haven't done well. Nobody does well on short rest. Like, nobody.
No.
So why do you insist on doing that?
I'm assuming because they think that if the pitcher pitches well, they can go back to that guy. But I think in the case of Cleveland, what made it so bizarre is they have so much depth. They could have gone anywhere. I mean, yeah, I know Josh Tomlin is not a guy that stands out. He had a bad regular season, but you can go to him in Game 4, get 4 innings out of him. Then you can go to your bullpen, which has been so good. You can spread it out. But I think for Francona, it was all about trying to set up Kluber for Game 5. He was so obsessed with making sure that Kluber was set up for Game 5 that Game 4 was kind of, I don't want to say it was a toss-out, but it was a game that if they lost, he could live with it. And they ended up losing it anyway. So he goes back to Kluber, who got shelled by the Yankees Game 1. He expects him to rebound Game 2 and doesn't pitch well at all. And, of course, Didi Gregorius takes him yard twice in the same game. So,
well, that was
it.
That first inning home run, you could hear a pin drop in Progressive Field, pin drop. They were shocked. They were like, oh, my God, because they got Kluber in the first game, and now, look, already they scored. And then once it went 3-0, I thought the Yankees were going to I thought they were going to add more runs, and I thought the Yankees had this game in my head. You're still on pins and needles, and we were the whole game till that 9th inning because you never know what can happen. But they weren't hitting because I kept thinking, well, if they, get somebody on and then who could hit the home run? A lot of them could hit home runs, but nobody was hitting for Cleveland either, really.
No, they weren't. And you know what? I have to tip my cap, first of all, not just to the Yankees starting pitching, because Severino and Tanaka were fantastic. Tanaka was brilliant the other day in that 1-0 game. He was phenomenal. But that was, Girardi said that was the best start he had seen from him, and I agree. He earned all the money that they paid him a few years ago when he first came here in that one start on Saturday night. But that bullpen, oh my goodness, that bullpen has been phenomenal. The way that Canley pitched at the end of the ball game in Game 5, striking out 5 guys, coming into a tough situation, getting 2 strikeouts with 2 runners on base in the 8th inning, and then blowing away 3 straight hitters in the 9th. He was phenomenal. And for all the problems that Chapman has caused this year with his inconsistencies on the mound, the tweet that he put out or liked the other day about Girardi, I got to give him some credit because he's pitched well in this postseason. 13 strikeouts in 7 innings is mighty impressive.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. What about Robertson?
Yeah.
He comes in and gets the double play. I mean, throws that double play ball, and that just killed that rally for Cleveland right there after they took CeCe out. And then the other game with Green and Robertson back-to-back, who were just phenomenal. I mean, I know they had the one game. I think he brought him back too soon. This is one thing about Joe. We've talked about it. I'm going to say this. Joe is a good manager. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's probably one of the top 5 in all of baseball, granted. However, the caveat or the but or whatever with him, which drives me crazy, is sometimes you got to don't look at the book and go with your gut. That one game, CC, you could have pushed him a little longer, I think. That one who's at 77 pitches. Have somebody ready. There's no reason why you can't have a guy ready to come in, because he's going to come in. CC's not going 9. We know that. So have the guy ready to go, right? And as soon as you see the first sign of trouble, take him out. But he was doing fine. I think he could have got out of that one inning. That when they were up 8-3. Do you know what I mean? At that point in that game. So there was a lot of things that were happening in that game, not just the replay. I know the replay is huge because Lindor doesn't hit the grand slam. You can't even say the next inning does he get a home run. You don't know. You can't do that. But if you get that, you call that replay, he doesn't come up. That was the 3rd out. So, then the Yankees cruise. Probably the rest of the way.
They probably do. And they probably finish the series in 4 and celebrate Yankee Stadium. But, very possible. But at the same time, when it's such a close play like that, I mean, I understand that where Girardi may have screwed up there. It was a close play. He didn't have much time to really look at it. That's what he said. He admitted he made a mistake. I will say this. The vitriol from a lot of the fans saying that he shouldn't come back, that he had screwed it up, that they want him gone, they want another manager there, and then to boom, Game 3. I thought that was a little bit excessive. I really thought that was beyond excessive, considering what this guy has done for this franchise since he took over this team 10 years ago. I really do.
Well, this is what I say to that, because a lot of people are upset with that. This is what I say. A fan has no voice. A fan can call talk radio and vent. A fan can talk to his friends. He could go to the bar. How do they let Joe know we're not happy with you? That's the only way. That's the only way at a game without throwing things, and you know what I mean, that a fan can show displeasure. And I understand people were upset with that, but to me, I think it's not that it was so malicious, it's that this is the only way they could express themselves. How does he know? Were they going to give him all these cheers? Like, oh, we're behind. They want, and you know, New York is tough. We live here. We're fans of teams. That's their one voice is the boo or the applause. Either one. The chanting of your name, for you to come out for tip your cap, blah, 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 or the booing. This is the only two things fans can let you know right then and there how we feel. So for all the people that have said that and it was too much, this is the only way they could have told Joe. Say, hey, we didn't like what you did. But that doesn't mean you're not behind him as a manager. That means get your act together. And that's what people don't understand, too, about New York metropolitan area here, Jersey, New York, Connecticut. The way we're brought up, the way with our sports teams, we're still behind you. I'm not the biggest Joe Girardi fan, but I'll tell you right now, and you know why. But he's our manager. You know, just same thing with A-Rod. When he came back, they booed him. Remember with the steroids? But you know what? He's on your team, and you're going to stand behind him. Same thing here. These fans, it's not that they're not behind Joe. They want Joe to do good. But they want Joe to know, hey, you know, that sucked. The last game, right?
It was bad.
And it shouldn't have happened. It was huge. And this is the only way they could voice their opinion. So everybody who says, oh, they shouldn't, you know, because I heard some people on TV, you know, like on these talk shows and going crazy.
Well,
the fans have no right. This is the only way they can voice. Either the applause, the yelling, or the boo.
Well,
that's what they did.
In defense of that, I will say this. There were some fans who called into radio shows that were really beyond. I mean, they were calling him the worst manager in the history of the sport. I mean, that's how bad it got in some of the vitriol. I mean, I heard one guy. I'm driving to the station on Saturday morning, and some guy calls in and says, "Oh, he's the most overhyped manager in sports. You know, he only came here because of what he did in Miami. He didn't do anything in Miami. I mean, he had a mediocre season in Miami one year." And I'm like, man, you know, all the things that this guy has, winning World Series, winning World Series obviously in 2009, that aside, but getting the team that had no expectations this year into the playoffs, I understand he screwed it up, but my God, to call him the worst manager in sports, really? I don't know about that. And that really bothered me.
Because you have some chronics. On my job where I work at night.
Yeah.
And I put on sports talk radio, you know, and when it's not busy, that's what I'm listening to. And and me and another officer, we go back and forth. I go, oh, look who's on, you know, CJ from Mount. We know them all. It's the same people calling in every night that you listen to. And they give you the same BS because it's almost like, and those kind of fans are ignorant fans.
Yes.
Those kind of fans they're just so, and forget about, oh, you never played, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to play to know the sport, all right? You really don't. And you can study the game like I've done my whole life. I never played football. I played a little touch football. Do I know football? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, so, I mean, did I play hockey? No, my brother played hockey, but I was always whenever I watched sports my whole life from a kid, I was like a student in the game. So I know a lot more probably than a lot of men know because I've studied the game and I know about it. So, but a lot of these people don't know anything. They're just the run-of-the-mill fan who gets on the bandwagon and starts yelling. Yeah, Joe made a mistake. Absolutely. I mean, matter of fact, not just that, he did a couple of things in that game that he just was like, it's almost like, you know, like a player has a bad game.
Yeah.
Has 3 errors. Strikes out 4 times at the plate, real bad game. Joe had that for a manager.
He did.
For that game. Everything went wrong. Making the changes with the pitching, not challenging, questionable other, there was a couple questionable other things there. It was a horrible, horrible game. And I think another thing, when they interviewed him in the post, he had all these excuses. And instead of just saying, I had a bad game. What can I tell you? It was a horrible time to have it in the playoffs. And he should have just come clean. You know why? Because you can see it. It's on video. Everybody's watching. There's no reason to sugarcoat. Don't tell me you don't want to break a guy's rhythm. Sanchez is to home plate how many times? I mean, to the pitcher's mound, how many times in a game? Talk about breaking rhythm. So all the excuses, I think that didn't sit well either. If he would have come clean in the immediate press conference and just said, we looked at it, I was wrong. I didn't get to it. Because Sanchez was yelling for the replay, too. Headley in the dugout was saying it.
Yeah.
He should have just come clean. I think that the fans wouldn't have been as visceral.
I think you're right.
But because you know how arrogant he is.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen press conferences all year. He's actually sarcastic sometimes with the press. He's got that, he gives that laugh. And he goes, well, and he always thinks he's, not better than everybody, but he's smarter
they're
than
all
them.
like that. Yeah, they're all like that.
But he's if you watch his press conference, he's more than a lot of other managers. Torrey never came across like that. This guy does. So now you got the arrogance that you see all the time. Now we're in the post game, instead of just saying, listen, I screwed up. No, he's going to pull that. That made it even worse. And it was like, are you kidding me?
That's fair.
People are just tired of it. And I think that's where the visceral came out. I'm not, let's say, saying they were right. Some of those fans calling in and all that. But you got to understand where it's coming from, too. So that's where I think it was coming from. And as far as, like I said, the booing, I think they had every right to. They had to let him know that wasn't right. That wasn't good.
Fair enough. I will say this, last thing on that point, I can only imagine what about that bus ride was last night. Whether they went straight back to the hotel or went to the airport to take the ride out of Houston, whatever they did. I cannot imagine what that bus ride was like for those players.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! For him
you saw even with the champagne and them going crazy, and think about it. Like you said, it's a nice mix of veterans who are leaders. Sabathia, Gardner, Frazier, all stepped up as leaders, and Gregorius, all through that game, even though Didi's still young. Remember, Didi's only 27. Didi, and so is Castro's. Castro's 28. They're young, too, but they're veteran young because they've been in the game for a number of years. And then you got the Sanchez and the Bird and the Severino and the Judge, those guys, Torreyes. You got that group that are really newbies. I forgot about Bird. It's really his first full season too. He's a rookie.
It is. He hasn't even had a full season yet because he's been injured.
And what about him? Give him so much credit. He's a pure hitter. He's probably the best hitter. Almost. I think he's a better hitter even than Judge. You know what I mean? I mean, his swing and how he gets his bat on the ball. And remember they were saying that he was tanking on purpose, that he really wasn't hurt. Remember that all came out?
Yeah, I remember that,
ankle and all that BS. Then he gets the surgery. He was so determined to come back. And you know what? And for all the people who said the Yankees should have got Bruce, lucky they didn't, because Bird wouldn't have been on the roster. You wouldn't have been able to see what Bird can do. And because Bruce would have been at first base. You know what I mean? So everybody who was pushing for that back then, I wasn't pushing for it. Even everybody's like, they need him. But let the kid, let's see how this plays out, because you got to know what you have. The Yankees know what they have. They've got a right fielder. They've got a catcher. They've got a first baseman.
They got a second baseman. They got a shortstop. They really got a shortstop with that kid. I mean,
all right. What about Hicks? Hicks is only 26. Hicks is young too. Add that all in and forget about what's sitting there. You got Clint Frazier yet. You got, you got Torres, but Torres, Gleiber Torres, who was there. We don't know totally what that's all going to be. There's a couple of pitchers down there. So there's still people. Yeah.
That are coming. That's why this team has a great future, because whatever happens in this series, beyond whatever happens in this series, this team's going to be a favorite to be back in this spot next year, the year after that, because of this pipeline of players they have coming up and the experience these guys are going to have. And And look at a guy like a Didi Gregorius to come in here last year in a tough situation to replace Derek Jeter, to replace that kind of player, and for him to have the kind of season he has had. He had a good season last year, to have an outstanding season this year, and to be really the guy who carried that team last night, really in the early parts of that game, to carry the team the way he did. That just tells you the kind of player he is. Not just the kind of player, the kind of person he is to be that zoned in. So I got to give him a lot of credit. You mentioned Greg Bird.
Not even just the home runs, the defense.
He's been tremendous. Look at him in the plays. Some of the plays he's made defensively, even in the series, have been outstanding. I mean, he's been phenomenal. Yeah. And then on Greg, absolutely, Greg Bird, you mentioned him. Can you imagine if we had a full season of Greg Bird? I mean, we could be talking about him being right there with Judge in the 50 home run category. Remember when he was killing the baseball in spring training, and it was like, oh my God, what's this guy going to be like? If he has, I mean, he's going to have a full season next year. He's going to be healthy, hopefully for him. He's going to have a big season next year. So the blueprint's there for this team to succeed, not just for the rest of this postseason, but for the next several years to come. And I got to ask you as a Yankee fan, when you look at what this team has done this year, and they are still going, obviously. Does it feel like 96? Does it feel? Are you afraid to say it feels like 96? How do you feel right now as a Yankee fan when you look at this team compared to that one?
It does kind of feel like 96. 95, 96. Remember in 95 they lost to Seattle. Mm-hmm. And then Showalter lost his job, and look what happened. Yeah. But that core was there, except for Jeter. Jeter wasn't brought up yet, but Pettit was there, and Bernie was there. And then they brought up Jeter in 96. They decided to start him. Mm-hmm. It feels like that because you've got a mix. Think about it. Back then who'd you have for veterans? You had Paul O'Neill. Mm-hmm. Remember Tino came in to replace Mattingly?
Not easy.
That was a huge, very tough on Tino. I'm trying to think of the other veterans that were there.
Well, you had Joe Girardi was there as the catcher.
Joe Girardi was behind the plate.
You had Wade Boggs. You had Cecil Fielder coming in 96, obviously.
Then you had the kids.
Yeah.
Then you had Bernie, and then you had Pettit, and then you had Jeter, and you had, remember, Mo was setting up for Wetland.
Yeah.
Who else? Which one? Ramiro Mendoza. He was a Yankee product from the farm system. He was there. Homer Bush, remember him? Mm-hmm. He was the second baseman. He was like a Torreyes kind of player. Mm-hmm. Could play second, short, third. He was a little, speed. So you had that as far as your youngsters. So, and they carried that. Remember then they brought in Darryl Strawberry. He played some outfield DH. Over the next couple of years, all those championships. You kept changing the veteran. Those couple of veteran presents. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, O'Neill was the staple. Tino was the staple. Oh, Posada. We forgot totally about Posada.
Yeah.
He wasn't a big factor in 96. Joe was the main catcher then, but then Posada was being filtered in and came mm-hmm. into, took over. So you had, it kind of feels like that with these kids, with this veteran presence. The one thing right now mm-hmm. that Joe Girardi needs to do, and I'm sick of hearing the guy hasn't hit for 6 or 7 games. Holiday must be your DH when you start this series. Mm-hmm. Ellsbury and Headley are 0 or 1 for 20 with like 14 strikeouts. Now, I know Ellsbury got on once because there was the catcher interference.
They're 0 for 20.
Headley,
0 for 20.
0 for 20. So
yeah.
they didn't get a hit. Nobody got a hit.
No.
So, and Headley's, how many times that one game, he struck out with 5 men on base. He struck out with men on second and third, no outs, first and second, no outs at one time, and mm-hmm. then there was 1 runner on. 3 strikeouts, 5 men were left on base. He didn't even move the runners over. Okay? Mm-hmm. So Headley's now in that down mode. Mm-hmm. Ellsbury's in the down mode for as hot as they were, and give them credit. They on and off they were hot. They're not hot now. Mm-hmm. Why don't you give Holiday, who's a professional hitter, a chance? Same thing when he brought Headley off the bench to pinch hit as a right-handed hitter. Holiday is used to that from being mm-hmm. in the National League and what he's been doing with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. I know he hasn't bat. Headley struck out again. So you're getting 0 production out of that. Even Judge, for as bad as Judge has been, Judge still has gotten some walks. He got that big, remember the doubles he got that drove in the 2 runs in that one game? And you can't take him out because of his defense. He saved the home run. He's got an arm out there. They're not going to run on him. So Judge is what Judge is, okay? But you can't have another zero in your lineup. And they're a total zero. They don't even, because they're just DHing. If you're not hitting, you're not contributing. At least if you're a position player, you got your defense to fall back on, which Judge has done. These guys have nothing but DH. They're not doing it. They're not getting it done. What is the problem? I want to know. I don't want to hear from him. He gives this stupid. This is what bothers me about him. Stupid excuse. Well, the guy hasn't hit in 6 or 8 games. Okay, but and when you are pinch hitting off a bench in the National League, you can go how many games without even being called? Right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, he's got to shake it up just a little bit. And I agree with you. Maybe give Holiday an opportunity to get some at bats here in the series. Wouldn't be a bit.
Judge. That would be my.
And drop Judge. I agree with you. Drop Judge. Give Holiday some at bats. Maybe even give Judge some protection there with Holiday behind him or something, or even in front of him, just to give him a little more protection there with a veteran presence around him in the batting order. Wouldn't be a bad thing to do. Of course, you're gonna lead things off here with Gardner. You want him to get on base and create the havoc that he can. Ellsbury and Headley should either one of them should be on the bench. I would imagine that would be Ellsbury, and I would leave Headley off the roster entirely for this series, mainly because he just isn't contributing much at all. Struck out 6 times. His defense, as you mentioned, is not as good as Frazier's defense at third base, and plus Frazier has the leadership qualities that you like there at third base. Speaking of Frazier, also a free agent this year, so the Yankees definitely want to try to re-sign him going forward to next year. But I look at this series against Houston. It's gonna be tough. I mean, there's no doubt about it's gonna be tough because of the starting pitching they have. Now, Houston's bullpen doesn't really stand out. Now, they have a couple of guys there, Devenseski and Harris, who pitched 1,000,000 innings this year. But it's all about their starting pitching. Verlander, Keuchel, of course, who pitched that great game against the Yankees a couple years ago in that wild card game. Verlander, the Yankees know pretty well from his days in Detroit. Charlie Morton, he was in Pittsburgh. Now, he's been pitching very well since he's come over here to Houston. He struck out 163, which I believe is a career high for him. So he's been pitching very well for them. And then they have McCullers maybe as the 4th starter. So it's all about the starting pitching for them in this series. But you know what? With the way the Yankees have been pitching lately, outside of Sonny Gray, you got to feel pretty good. I would imagine, and I think this is going to be key, Karen, how's Girardi going to set up this rotation? If it were me, I would probably go Tanaka game 1, Severino game 2. I think by game 3 I think is Monday. So I think CeCe will be on regular rest. He can probably go CeCe Sabathia game 3 and then Sonny Gray game 4. That's what I would do if I were Girardi.
All right, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
Because Tanaka is so much better at home than on the road.
Okay.
So much better. It's like a night and day. So I would start Sonny Gray, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because you got to go with a 4-man rotation. I put Severino regular rest day 2 against Verlander. The 3rd start goes to Tanaka. He's home, and he's on. I think he's on more rest. I don't know if it's regular. I think he's got an extra day, which he's much better at. Okay, and then CeCe. I know Sonny Gray, you're thinking, well, you're throwing this game away. It's not necessarily true. And also, Sonny Gray knows them. He played in Oakland.
Yeah.
He knows this lineup. So he does have he's got to have some kind, not an advantage, but I don't want to say advantage, but, he knows what he's dealing with. So you're going to have to pitch him at some point. Do you want Sonny Gray really in game 3 or 4 where you need the game?
No.
So I would throw him I hate to say throw to the wolves. And it's a professional pitcher, man. He's really due to have a good game. I would put him number 1. I know a lot of people may go crazy. I would do number Gray, Severino, and Houston. Then you're coming home for 3. Okay? Numbers 2, 3, and 2. So then you got Tanaka, Sabathia, and then I don't know how the time frame is. You might be able to throw Severino again.
You might be able to.
Like what is the schedule? I'll have to look at the schedule.
The schedule is
how would they got it split up?
I have it right here.
How many days in between?
I have it right here. It's Friday, Saturday, game 1, game 2, then day off Sunday, then game 3, 4, 5 are all in succession. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Yankee Stadium. Thursday's the day off. Friday, Saturday, Game 6, Game 7 in Houston. So the question is going to be, who do you want? Who would you want to have a Game 7?
All right, Game 2 at the Saturday. I'm looking at it now. So you got Game 2 be Severino, and 1, 2, 3, 4. He would be on 4 days rest if he pitched Game 3.
Yes.
So would you go Severino Game 1? But I don't know. When did he pitch last?
Severino pitched in Game. He pitched Game
3.
He pitched Game 4. So that was what was that? That was
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, so his normal
pitched
rest
Tuesday.
will be Game 2. I would pitch him on normal rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's Game 2 against the Astros, and then you've got 1, 2, 3. You could possibly pitch him Wednesday the 4th, which would be only 4 days rest because then you have a day off, and then you go to Friday. Let me see. Tanaka's there. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do Tanaka if you go to a Game 7. Tanaka could be your Game 7 guy. That'd be in Houston.
Would you rather have Tanaka? Or would you rather have CeCe there in Game 7? You just said Tanaka doesn't pitch all that well on the road, so I would rather have CeCe there in Game 7 myself because it's going to be against Keuchel.
And then you know what? It's all hands on deck. Game 7.
Yeah.
Except for the pitcher who pitched the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you had relievers that pitched the day before, they all got to be ready. They got to go. They have no choice.
Now you could pull.
So even if they give you 1 inning,
you could pull in the Game 7 like that. You could pull what the Diamondbacks did to the Yankees back in 2001 and bring back a Severino in like the 5th, 6th inning if you really needed it. Remember when they brought back Randy Johnson the next day? You could probably do that with Severino if you really needed it. In a Game 7, we'll see what happens there. But the guys they have to watch obviously are Jose Altuve, who's had a tremendous start to the postseason. Guy gets on base all the time. Gurriel's had a good postseason. He's hitting .529 in 17 at bats. He has 9 hits, and Springer. So those guys are all going to get on base. Gaddis has always been a tough nosed player for a long time down there in Houston. So they have the guys that can hit the baseball consistently. It's going to be about pitching. It's going to be about pitching in tough, tight spots, and that bullpen for the Yankees is going to be very important if they're going to win this series. That bullpen has to be phenomenal as they were against Cleveland.
And they have to hit, and Sanchez and Judge now have to start hitting. Can you imagine they won this series without Sanchez and Judge?
Mm-hmm. I know.
Definitely without Judge, except for the defensive play, but offensively, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So your 2 big guys in the middle. You won without them.
Yeah.
Now we need them. They have to step up. I mean, everybody else was carrying them, and you can't have a 0 at DH. You just can't. And, I give Holiday, what do you have to lose? That's what I would like to ask him. He has all the excuses. What do you have to lose? The other 2 are giving you 0s. So Holiday may give you 0s. Well, then they're all giving you 0s at DH, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what? Right? Am I right? I mean,
you got to go. You got to go with your best guy, and right now, Holiday is your best guy. I mean, he's certainly the best. He's certainly the most experienced. He's certainly more experienced than Headley is in postseason play. I mean, with both the Cardinals and the Rockies. I mean, I would rather have him bat in a tight situation with men on base than I would Chase Headley. It's obvious.
See, but Girardi, and I talked about this with somebody yesterday. That's like his pet. Every manager has like one guy that they're so loyal to. I'm thinking of Torrey over the years. One was, and I couldn't stand him. He was this. He played. It was in '96, as a matter of fact. I think he played second base for them in '96.
Mm-hmm.
What is his name? It wasn't Knobloch. It was before Knobloch. And he was always messing up on the hitting, like constantly. Like I forgot his name. Anyway, but they all have somebody. He loved Bernie Torrey. Mm-hmm. Now Bernie was fine till towards the end. When they finally released him, and he wanted to stick by him, and he didn't have it towards the end. But this is what it is with Girardi. Headley is his guy.
I'm looking at the stats for Holiday against the Astros this year, and he played the 4 games they met back in May, so it's still a long time ago now. But he had a hit in every single game of that series. It was 4-game series. He had a hit in every single game of that series. He had a home run and 5 RBIs in the series and scored 4 runs. So he had a big series that week.
Too.
He had a big series that week.
So what do you got to lose at this point? The other two are non-existent at the plate. And not only are they not doing anything, they're not even getting their bat on the ball to move runners over. They're doing nothing. They're striking out. Everybody's talking about Judge, which is understandable. But between the two of them, how many strikeouts did we say? Was it like 14 or something?
For who?
The
For
two
who?
of them?
For Headley?
Ellsbury and Headley.
Combined in the postseason, I saw 8 strikeouts combined. Most of those going to Headley. He had 6.
All right. So, I mean, but they weren't getting on. I don't think they walked that much. They really weren't.
None.
They weren't doing anything.
Big goose egg. Goose egg.
So,
nothing. You got nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose. This is it. I mean, it's do or die from here on out.
Exactly.
It's do or die.
That's why I don't understand. That's the stubbornness, and that's the Italian in him. I can say that because I'm half Italian. It's the Italian in him, and you see it. You see it in the press conferences. You see it in his little arrogance. That's one thing about Italians, I'll tell you right now, and anybody who's listening, because like I said, I'm half. They're in control. They always got to be in control, and they've got to control the situation. And Girardi is huge in that. He's going to control the situation. It's going to be his way or the highway, or no way or whatever. It's just his way. And that's when he doesn't give in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I think that's what's part of the booze. And he realized it too. He goes, I may have to change. He said it in that other press conference and after when he finally admitted to everything that I might have to think things differently. Of course you do once in a while.
We'll see what happens in this series. Now, as I said at the top, I have a funny feeling about this team that they have a certain it factor going for them. Again, we'll see what happens in this series because Houston's a great baseball team. They really are. I mean, they won 101 games. At one point, they had the best record in the league. But I just have a funny feeling the Yankees could pull out some kind of upset here if they do everything right. And if they pitch extremely well in this series, which they have to do, especially out of the bullpen, I could see the Yankees pulling this thing out in 6 games. We'll see what happens. Now, I'd be shocked if Houston wins. I would not. But there's something about the way the Yankees have played, as I said, that just makes me think that they can go out there and win this series. I may be crazy, but I think they can. Karen, what do you think how this series is going to play out?
Oh, I think the Yankees can do it. And exactly what you said, it's going to come down to pitching. It's going to come down to the bullpen being on. But the Yankees do have to score runs. Now, what we're saying here is the same thing what people thought with Cleveland. Everybody thought the Yankees had no chance against Cleveland. They had the best record in the American League, and they've got Kluber and on and on and on. Well, we've got the same scenario. This is similar, but now it depends. Cleveland, the Yankees kept them like Lindor and Ramirez and Santana. They kept everybody in check. Are you going to be able to keep some of these guys in check? We don't know. I mean, they're hot right now, but as you go series to series, that can change. Look what happened to Judge. He was hot through September, even the wild card game, and now he's cold. So you never know when that's going to happen. If it happens to one of those guys for Houston, is that enough? You know what I mean? If one of them goes cold or has a bad series, I mean, they're all human beings, remember. They're not all going to be robots.
They're not going to hit it well forever. And again, sometimes it's just the matchup. I mean, sometimes the way the ball's going to come out of Keuchel's hands and Verlander's hands are very different than what they saw from Kluber and Carrasco, for that matter, out in Cleveland. It's a much different team. So,
exactly.
Could there be a couple of guys that have been hitting well right now hit a slump? It's very, very possible. That's why it's very important for the Yankees to prevent the big inning here from Houston. It really is, because Houston's a team that, especially in that building, such a weird ballpark over there. But I believe it's still called Minute Maid Park, or is it some kind of bank or something like that? I don't even know what it's called anymore.
No, it's Minute Maid Park.
It's still Minute Maid Park. Okay, I wasn't sure if they called it after something else now, but it's such a weird stadium over there in Houston. The center field's crazy.
Bad idea.
The left field has that violent corner towards it. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the ball's it has a tendency to jump out of the ballpark. I think we're going to see some offense here, but the key for the Yankees, like you said, get Judge rolling in this series. They're going to get Judge rolling in this series, especially Game 1. If you can, not necessarily by the home run, but just get a base hit, get a double. Get a couple of doubles like he did the other day against Cleveland, driving a pair. Start to feel good about himself. Get the confidence going, and we'll see what happens there as far as Judge is concerned.
Because can you imagine if, like they always say, if Bird, Sanchez, and we still haven't seen it completely, Bird, Sanchez, and Judge all roll at once?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are all on. You know,
that would be
unreal.
Well, that would be a sight to behold. I mean, if we see that in this series, then forget about it. You can turn the lights out in both ballparks.
Right. I mean, you know, if that happens, we're waiting for it. I know it's all been sporadic because of injuries. You know, Sanchez was out a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
Judge was the only one who was there for the most part. And you know what, Judge? They're icing his shoulder again. Did you see that in the press conference?
I did not see that.
It was a couple of games ago within this series,
mm-hmm.
and they're doing his shoulder again. So something's with the shoulder, and when they start doing that, then he starts like he's been. And that's what happened. Everybody said he went through that cold spell. Well, it wasn't just a cold spell. He admitted finally, they said, that he was hurting.
Mm-hmm.
So is it hurting again? Like, what's with the shoulder? It's not even his throwing shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It's the left shoulder that they keep icing. So
that's going to be something to watch.
Something to watch.
That'll be something to watch. I'll say this. Last thing before we close this out on the baseball, I would love, because with our generation, my generation anyway, has never seen Yankees Dodgers in World Series. I don't know how far you go back. If you remember 78,
I go back.
You go back to 77, 78, 81.
Yes, I do.
When
81,
those two teams met in the World Series 3 times. You saw all those.
Yeah. I saw all of that.
That would be phenomenal to see LA, New York in the World Series if that were to come to pass, or Chicago, New York. That would be fun as well. So.
Yeah, it would definitely, as long as the Yankees beat the Dodgers. See, I don't like the Dodgers. I don't like the Dodgers. I don't like Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to those days.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We won 77, 78, and then 81 we lost.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's when that was the Winfield era back then in 81.
Damn.
So, anyway.
It's time for some revenge. Get some revenge for 81. That's what it's all about.
That's what it is. Revenge for 81.
So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so that's our baseball coverage here, folks, on the Sports Talk Nation. And again, folks, you can follow us on the Facebook, on Twitter, facebook.com/openmicprogram, and of course on Twitter @openmicnj on Twitter. And remember, like and subscribe right here on the YouTube channel for the Sports Talk Nation. So, and out with an air horn. How did that happen?
I went outside and I did the air horn really loud.
Oh,
so
my
I don't
God.
know if anybody. I probably woke up some people.
You scared a lot of people.
It was a weekday. Yeah, I probably did.
And then they called the police headquarters, and you answered the phone.
So your dispatch is out there with the air horn.
What's going on?
My God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I did. I said, I'm going out with the air horn. I don't care if they win. And I did. And I went, I did it a couple of times. And then I closed my door real quick. By the time anybody would wake up and have to go look out the window. It was after midnight, wasn't it? It was late.
It was late.
That game over.
You know what you need? So, you know what you need? You need to get the air horn that they use when they hit home runs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so I forgot that. I got to ask my brother. Well, he was asleep, I'm sure. He was next door. Did you hear it? Did you hear the air horn? Did it wake you up? That was me. Oh, my God.
Maybe that might explain how a picture fell off my wall in my room. Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
Thank you so much for coming on, as always. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care, Michael.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.